Shana Tova, everybody. I always will remember February 17th, 2021. It was a Tuesday. This is the first blizzard that we experienced in Birmingham, Alabama. There was a centimeter of snow and the city shut down. I was paranoid that Rachel was going to get stuck at UAB because they wouldn't let us drive over the hill, but nevertheless, she made it. But if you want to know what a real blizzard is like, remind you to tell you a blizzard in Birmingham, Michigan. 28 inches of snow, and there's school the next day. But in the middle of the night, Rachel woke up frantically. Her water broke at 31 weeks, 4 days pregnant, carrying twins. She was admitted to UAB where physicians hoped that she could deliver closer to 34 weeks. My mom was scheduled to arrive in Birmingham early Friday afternoon to watch Lillian, yet her flight was delayed multiple times, and we were getting worried that she wasn't going to make it, but she arrived at 7:30 p.m. Rachel called me an hour later, concerned that she may have had contractions, but they thought they were Braxton Hicks, and I just said, just wait to talk to the attending before I head down to the hospital. An hour later, Rachel called again. She was heading to the OR. I got in my car. I think I ran through 7 lights in Naizuma and on 6th Avenue, arriving at 9:45 p.m. And when I got there to the second floor, they put me in this waiting room, but they forgot to bring me back to the OR. But I finally entered the operating room somewhere around 5:15, and I came from the back, and I remember I ran into the room and they told me to keep my arms up in the air. Because in a planned C-section, when everything goes according to plan, we usually can't see the surgery. There's a curtain that separates the mother and the medical team. But because I came in late and witnessed this hectic scene, I saw a nurse whisk a small baby to the resuscitation room. And the first thing that Rachel said to me was, she wasn't crying. We soon learned that the baby girl was intubated, but the baby boy was stable, breathing on his own. The OR was loud and stressful. And then suddenly the situation improved dramatically. And I remember we went through the OR, then we went to the resuscitation room, and I saw the twins in these little incubators. We walked down this hallway, and then 2 fire doors opened up, and things got better. We went into the twins' room, and I think I saw the most remarkable thing in my life. I counted nearly 20 people, 10 working on each baby. They were setting up the IVs, the feeding tubes, and connecting a bevy of plugs into machines. They had one mission: care for my premature babies. This was teamwork at its absolute best. They didn't argue about politics. They didn't argue about religion, ideology, and even in Alabama, they didn't argue about college football. They communicated, they listened. They were kind and supportive. They were a diverse unit dedicated to saving lives and providing warmth to a very anxious dad who was scared. One nurse asked me, "Dad, do you have names?" And I answered, "Theodore Davis Wright." And I took a step back and I said, "Maisie Davis Wright?" I was 90% confident that Rachel and I agreed to the name Maisie. Then I told her in the recovery room that I named her Maisie. And she said, "You did, but we're happy we went with the name." But nevertheless, Maisie was intubated, but I had a good feeling that things would be okay. 30 hours later, which was remarkable, Maisie and Teddy were downgraded to the continuing care nursery for a long 6 weeks. The twins thrived, thanks to a wonderful medical team, and especially to God. The significance of the NICU taught me to slow down, let things go, to appreciate the joy. Most things in life aren't that important. Find the perspective. Smile. It's actually good for us. Remember to show kindness. And finally, there are truly good people in this country. Their politics doesn't matter. It's their actions that define them. It's their actions that will define and decide their legacy. It's how they treat us that matters at the end. And as we welcome the new year, I think this is the reminder that we all need, because I am troubled in the direction that we are going. Because right now, we put aside the good things in life. But in reality, we've made life unpleasant. We're not just getting mad at the small stuff. It seems to be everything. And let me be clear, it's not because of COVID, the lockdowns, the variants, or the vaccination status that led to our petulant behavior. We've been on this road of anger for many years, and frankly, we enjoyed being on it because we are so self-righteous, justified by our behavior. We embrace the rage. We've welcomed tribalism. We continue to bind ourselves tighter to our camps and hate the other side. We turn a blind eye to intolerant social media mobs whose sole purpose is to ruin people's lives and careers. We malign certain media outlets as threatening echo chambers to our democracy, while we fail to notice the echo chamber we built around ourselves. We're addicted to the sensationalism, rushing to judgment for the story of the day while ignoring the facts, the data, and the nuances. We've declared war against those we think differently. We think that we are winning, but both sides are losing. Is it really worth it to be so blindly arrogant by our self-righteous convictions? Is it really worth it to dismiss those with opposing views as ignorant, or even worse, evil? It's not surprising that social commentator Malcolm Gladwell said, "Americans love nothing more than accentuating their differences." What is especially sad is that we have generations of Americans who are growing up not talking to anyone with a different point of view. This is how the fear of the other drives bigotry and also creating divisions beyond repair. And arguably the greatest rabbi in our tradition, Maimonides, said it best: we like the opinions to which we have been accustomed from our youth. We defend them and shun contrary views. This is the one thing that prevents us from finding truth, clinging to the opinions of habits. What has been the result of our behavior? Americans are the unhappiest they've been in 50 years. We're the most stressed we've ever been too, and this unfortunately applies to our children. We're more anxious, we're more depressed, we're more isolated than ever. We're more angrier and impatient. We intentionally avoid joy, especially the things that are actually good for us in life. For example, taking vacation. Listen to this stat. Before the pandemic, 768 million U.S. vacation days went unused. But we stick to the rage, we stick to our camps, we stick to the divisions. We can't go on like this, not as Americans and certainly not as Jews. It's not healthy and it's not right. And here we are on the birthday of the world, Rosh Hashanah, a day that challenges us to look inward, a day that we acknowledge that we are stubborn and stiff-necked, convinced we are right, entrenched in our own perspective. And here we are, on the 20-year anniversary of September 11th. A day in the American spiritual ethos we're supposed to remember and to mourn the 3,000 lives that were murdered. 20 years ago, Rosh Hashanah was 6 days after 9/11. I called my mentor, Rabbi David Frank, who spoke here at my installation, asking to give this part of the sermon he gave 20 years ago in San Diego. And with his permission, I'm sharing this. I was deeply moved by the example of New Yorkers. By now, many of us have seen the profound image of rescue workers hoisting an American flag on the fallen communication tower of the World Trade Center, standing amid the smoking ruins salute. There were also brigades of steel workers who marched into the rubble singing their Union songs and God Bless America. And American flags are cropping up everywhere amidst the destruction and throughout the country. And I remember that right after 9/11, neighborhoods throughout the country had the American flag beaming high on their flagpoles and standing tall into the ground. And 20 years ago, there actually was a shortage of American flags. We couldn't get them. And 20 years ago, our flag, it was a source of unquestioned national pride by all. And during this time, I wanted to buy a first responder shirt, whether FDNY or NYPD, to stand in solidarity with the firefighters and police officers. But like these flags, these T-shirts were nearly impossible to get. The tragedy of this horrific day found a way to unify the country. Nobody cared about politics. We weren't red, we weren't blue, we weren't even purple. We were Americans who showed up for this country. Americans donated a record amount of blood. Over 250,000 men and women enlisted in the military. And one of my favorite stories is when the opinionated and boisterous Yankee fans cheered the controversial elected Republican president of the time, George W. Bush, as he threw a commanding strike for the first pitch in the World Series, followed by loud chants of USA. The most popular band of that time, U2, performed at the Super Bowl, honoring every single victim. The band's Irish frontman, Bono, brought millions to tears as he concluded the performance wearing a jacket of an American flag. United, we stood. It's been a long 20 years since 9/11. We've been through a lot. It almost feels like a daily pounding hangover that's not going away. 2 wars, a sudden economic crash in 2008, a pandemic, and needed conversations regarding race, immigration, voting, and policing. But even with the adversities that we faced as a nation, I never realized that this would be the breaking point after what we went through as a country. And for many, the American flag is now politicized rather than being a sign of hope and freedom. Our police officers are being evaluated on unjustified policing interactions. However, it seems that we've made a rush to judgment regarding the character of all police. So it's not surprising that there's actually a shortage of police officers in this country. Universities permeate intellectual intolerance and political one-sidedness. Therapists has reported unusually high numbers of clients seeking help to deal with politics within their personal relationships. Nearly a third of Americans have stopped talking to a friend or someone in the family because of politics. And a few years ago, the National Institute for Civil Discourse received needed requests for help from churches, from synagogues, Fortune 500 companies, where productivity is down because of political tension. United we stood, divided we are falling. We can't go on like this. Is this the quality of life we want for us and especially our children? And I think we know the answer. My final question for us tonight: how can we change? Luckily, the gift of Judaism gives us a fresh start annually. So let's make this a year when we aren't as sensitive. Make this the year where we toughen up and accept differing opinions. This is a year where nuance actually matters. And just maybe, this can be a year when we turn off the noise, turn off the punditry and the cable news at night. Here's a fact: Judaism does not talk about cable news. It doesn't even mention any paper of record. What's the paper of record in Judaism? It's the Torah. It talks about kindness, perspective, and judging a person by the quality of their actions, not by the pundit we watch, the political party we support, or some recently modern textbook that we read in college. And here are some examples. I did not stop the recitation team who intubated Maisie to ensure they aligned politically with me. In 2017, Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria decimated homes and destroyed people's lives. The volunteer Cajun Navy, and we can assume what their politics are, a group from Louisiana, saved countless lives. Do you think they stopped, asked what cable news they watch, what person they voted for, or asked what their religion is before they put them into their boats? Or do you think the victims cared about the political orientation of the Cajun Navy? Dr. Ahmed Eid is the head of surgery in Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. He's also an Arab Israeli. When he's operating on a patient, whether performing organ transplants or removing bullets or shrapnel, do you think he stops the surgery to make sure the patient is not Jewish? If my NICU experience reminded me not just to slow down, find the perspective, and to let things go, it ensured me to have faith in the power of the human spirit. There are truly wonderful and decent people in this world who, without hesitation, leave their voter preferences at the door because it simply does not matter. What matters is how we treat people, how we let the small things go, how we repair relationships, how we continue to work on our imperfections so our legacies can endure for generations to come. In San Diego, where I served as a rabbi before here, there is a bench in the courtyard dedicated to the life of Diane Gladstone. Diane's sister Jane is an active member there, and her son, Jamie, is a cantor who has strong roots too to certain members of this congregation. Diane was murdered on 9/11. She was stranded on the 78th floor with a good friend of hers who broke her leg, waiting for the high-speed elevator and then the first responders. And here at Temple Emanu-El, where every September, including tonight and this Friday, our congregants Paul Nagrotsky and Luis Abrams recite the Mourner's Kaddish for their brother-in-law, Ernie Wiltshire, who was murdered at the Pentagon on 9/11. The memories of Diane, Ernie, and their 3,000 victims deserve an America that isn't self-righteous and tribal. And equally as important, we the living deserve an America that is kinder, more patient, and reflective. An America that can find the perspective, let the small things go, not be as sensitive and intolerant, find the joy, smiles more often, and takes vacation. An America that understands its historical and current shortcomings, but endeavors to fulfill its ideals of freedom for everybody, all citizens. And most importantly, an America that sees the good in people, and leaves the echo chambers of intolerance for good, where the American flag isn't controversial, but the ultimate symbol of compassion, justice, empathy, and liberty. May the memories of the 3,000 victims forever be a blessing. As we welcome this new year, it's time. United, we stand for them. Shana Tova.